Hi, and welcome to the Marketing for Book Coaches show. In this show, I sit down with the best marketing experts so that you, the book coach, can focus on what is most important marketing without being overwhelmed. My name is Anne, and I am your host. Today, I am happy to introduce a former executive assistant turned Canva coach. She helps small business owners to go beyond the basics of Canva and create stunning visuals with ease. Get your earbuds ready to be blown away by Stephanie Wium. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, and thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming because we had a great conversation before we record this podcast. And I am sure that you will learn, our book coaches today, that there is a difference between using Canva and using Canva to get you to that next stage. But let's start with our first interrogation is, how did you become a Canva coach?
It's not such an exciting story. I launched myself as a virtual assistant generalist, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. Around about that time, I had already started playing around in Canva. I had no one to show me the ropes. I had to set out and learn it myself. So back then, I wanted a me. And I figured if I wanted a me, there's going to be someone else who needs a me as well. And that's how I started teaching Canva. Just
Oh, okay. So it was a very like organic
yes,
way.
yes,
Because one thing that I really love about your profile is that you're saying, hey, you're never too old to learn something new, and you actually teach, the thing you yourself have experienced and done yourself.
absolutely. I mean, I learned Canva after I attained level 50 because, being
Oh,
age
50.
50, that's not good. So I attained level 50 and then I learned how to use Canva. So I know how I felt and I want to help others who feel like me to not feel like me.
So you hear it here. There's no excuse to tell yourself, oh, I cannot use Canva. If Stephanie can, everybody can.
Basically, yes.
Um, so a lot of us, I think practically every one of us, we all use Canva and we all know how to do Canva. But one of the things that I have now seen happening is that we all take the same template, and it's very obvious that we're all using the same template. So can you give us like a golden tip or something like that of like, you can still take the template, but it will seem like it is not your template, but not the template.
I absolutely I love Canvas templates. Let me just put it out there. I love Canvas templates, but I also hate them because, as you say, they all look exactly the same. And when someone looks at a visual on social media, their brain is telling them, I have seen this before. So they scroll past. The only thing they've seen is the template. They've not seen your content. So if you want to start with a template. Make sure that you first and foremost change all your colors and your fonts and your photographs to you and what is specific to your brand, and then employ different assets into the brand, into the template itself. So if they've got a squiggly line and you have more straight lines with right angles, replace them because it's something that's removed from the template and you add your own personality and your own personal branding inside of the template. That way you're ensured that your template doesn't look like a template at the end of the day. I would normally advise my clients to open up two designs. The first one is the template, and the bottom one, which is blank, is where they're going to actually be designing. So what you want from the top design, from the template, you just copy across to the bottom one. And when you've got it all sorted out, then you delete the template and you end up with only your design. And it shouldn't take you longer than 10 minutes. So limit the overwhelm. If it takes you longer than 10 minutes, you're overthinking it.
That is a perfect remark, because I was listening to you. I was like, oh my God, does that mean that every single time we have to take the template, it's going to take a half an hour? So how do we get it to just 10 minutes? Like,
And the best way to do that is to actually set you up a folder that, and this is where you're going to have to spend a little bit of time in Canva to save time in the future. So the time that you spend in Canva setting your brand elements and assets up, save them to a specific folder. And from there, you're going to know exactly what needs to go on the design. So even if you take a template, you have got a brand asset folder that has everything that you need. So as you take off the template, you simply just drag across from your folder and everything is there on the design itself. So really, don't overthink it. Keep it as simple as possible for yourself.
yeah, I love that idea, because I mean, this is something that I also tell to my clients: wherever you can, put in place a system. So this is exactly what we're talking about, right? You have the system in place with your brand colors, your assets, your wording, all of that. Just a technical question: is this part of the paying version of Canva, or is it accessible to everyone?
Everybody in Canva, whether you're on the free version or the paid version, have got unlimited folders. So you have absolutely no excuse to not have your brand assets in a specific folder.
Ah, okay. So we just go in, we make that first template with our colors, and that's it.
Absolutely.
Then we just can take it out. Oh, that's a good tip. Um, I see you have a very specific background as well. Is that like something you would advise us to have as well? Maybe again as a system or as a way of limiting our time spent on Canva posts?
You know, when it comes to advertising yourself and marketing yourself on social media, a consistent brand is a recognizable brand, and being recognized, consistently recognized, maintains and promotes brand identity, which is absolutely incredibly important, because for us, we need to be visible and recognizable, but we also need to stand out. We also need to differentiate ourselves. So if we differentiate ourselves with a branded background that you're going to be using as a basis for all of your designs, that is one way that people are going to be able to immediately recognize Anne with her standard, her one would almost want to call it a standard background, but it's your branded background. The background that I have over here is my branded background that I use across all social media platforms, with the exception of Instagram. Everybody else, everywhere else, I use this background.
So if you are listening to the podcast and not the YouTube video, you can find this on the channel, and then you will see the background of Stephanie. Can you maybe give us a bit of a description of your background? I see the colors like white with a little bit of pink or orange. How do we set that up for ourselves?
Okay, so my basic background is a cosmos flower, a hand painted, illustrated cosmos flower that I splashed across the whole canvas. I then went and looked for a background that something that I can overlay on top of that, take some transparency away out of it so that the picture shows through the background itself, which is where the little Hessian mesh sort of look and feel come about. So it's very easy to actually just go and create your own branded background. What is important for you may not be a cosmos flower. It may be vibrant colors. And having a vibrant colored background would work well with overlays of different colors. Once again, just making sure that all the colors work together, and make sure that it actually translates your brand message, your brand identity, because at the end of the day, your branded background is a visual representation of your brand identity. So it can include elements like logos, colors, fonts, and any other visual elements that are absolutely unique to your brand. And
Yeah.
it reinforces brand identity, and it makes your graphics instantly recognizable to any audience.
Yeah, I really love that idea of making it recognizable. There we go again. I always have one of those words that I cannot pronounce. So we had that moment here. But what I really love in the explanation you give about your branded background is that in reality it's something very personal. It's not just I put out my colors. I really used that painting that I've done myself, and for it's important for me. I mean, I would imagine that it is important for you. So I think as a book coach, that can again make such a difference of putting yourself out there by using and making that own background. And you explain as well that it's not complicated to do.
You know, it if you spend 5 minutes searching for a specific asset that you want to use on your brand background, save that in a folder. When you go and create your branded background, you've got your asset, you drag it across, you save it as a template that you then can incorporate into any of your designs, no matter the size of the platform that you're specifically designing for.
That's actually good to remind. So because I must say, when I go on Canva, like I would imagine I have my background and then I just use it for LinkedIn, for for Instagram, for anything, for all the same. But actually, there is an important sizing difference between the different platforms, right?
Absolutely. When you are designing for social media, when you look at your phone, you normally look at it in portrait mode, which means that it stands up on its feet. When you're taking the time to scroll through social media and you get an image that basically is going to fill the whole of your phone screen, you're going to have to scroll up and down to see the various parts of the design itself. So when it comes to social media graphics, every platform has got its own size. Personally, for me, I use only one size, and that's a YouTube thumbnail, because a YouTube thumbnail, when you are looking at it on social media, whether it is Twitter, now called X, LinkedIn, or Facebook, everything you see above the line. When in advertising, in marketing, and in advertising, what you want to attract attention needs to be above the line. So if you've got a long standing on its feet visual that people need to scroll up and down to see the whole visual, that's not optimally sized for the platform where you are.
Or in other terms, we stop scrolling. Like I stop scrolling.
I stop scrolling and I simply scroll past. And, we have to understand that people are actually inherently, maybe I'm only talking about myself, lazy here. If we have
I'm
to
on
work,
your board. I'm on your team. Team lazy.
if we have to work at making out what is on the design itself, it's hard work. And it's too much because we're in an era of instant gratification. So if we don't see it, first off, we're going to scroll past.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we heard it here, the sizing. And so if I understood well, that YouTube thumbnail is like the best format if you even really want to make it more easier and say yourself, okay, I don't want to have a specific LinkedIn sizing, Instagram sizing, Facebook sizing. I just go for the YouTube sizing. That should be it.
Instagram is Instagram. Instagram is changing its grid outlay to portrait style photographs or portrait style visuals, but most grids are still a perfect square, 1080 by 1080 pixels. So Instagram is always in its own category completely. But when you're on the likes of X, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, my personal recommendation is to use a YouTube thumbnail, because everything is above the line. There's no need to scroll. There's no need to click on it to manipulate it around. Everything is just there.
Can you just remind us what you mean with the line?
Okay, so when you're looking at a website, and the top part of the website is what grabs your attention. If there's a call to action button on that specific bit of the website that you're looking at, that is called above the line. The moment you have to scroll to see something further down, that is below the line.
Okay, and how do you see that? We're not in Canva anymore now, but how do you know that you're under the line or above the line? It's really just also using your sizing in the Canva then.
Unfortunately, this is part of where personal experimentation comes in. You've got to make sure that what you're looking at and what you're actually putting out on social media is going to be good for the platform where you're advertising it. So normally on LinkedIn and Facebook, specifically, you've got a couple of lines of text, and then you've got your visual. All of that generally is what's called above the line. The moment you click on the see more or read more section on LinkedIn and Facebook, that will be below the line. So your ideal here is to have your hook for your post as well as your visual speaking the same language, so that it will encourage people to click on that see more or read more so that they can get to below the line. But your visual needs to be above the line. They shouldn't have to scroll up and down to get the whole image that they're looking at.
Okay, so you heard it. We have to be above the line. Keep it simple. You talked about the hook, and that brings me to my next question. So we have this branded background. We have set our templates. What do we do with it now? How can we use that branded template for our social media without spending hours on it?
If you're going to be using it for advertising of your books, you will create a mock-up, which is relatively easy to use in Canva. But once again, a photograph of whatever it is that you're advertising, whether you're advertising yourself or your own services, you just place that on top of your branded background. So remember, your branded background is the painted wall behind your desk, or at the page that you are looking at in the book itself. That's your background. So whatever you want on the background is on the background. Everything else is going to be a layer on top of that will tell us what it is that you're going to be advertising, what are you going to be talking about, whether you're sharing a testimonial, whether you're sharing a book review, whether you're sharing a photograph with a call to action, whether you are even just sharing a photograph for the sake of sharing a photograph.
Oh, okay. So even, because this is interesting. So even if you use the photograph, you would still suggest put it into Canva, put it on your branded template.
I do that, Anne, and for the simple reason, photographs grab attention, but I still want my brand to be, and my brand consistency to be there all the time. So I will take a photograph that I've taken, whether it's out in nature or whether it's a photograph of myself or of situation, whatever the case may be. I'll give it a little bit of a jaunty angle on top of my branded background so that they can still see my branded background, but there is something new that is being introduced, whether it's the sky or the ocean or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That yeah, I've never even thought about it. For me, like I just put on the photograph, and I think many of us we just put on the photograph. But like you say, it's a reminder unconsciously that this photograph is from you, and so it reminds people as well. Okay, hey, this is Stephanie who's doing her Canva. You gave an interesting example, which was the photograph with the CTA. How do we make sure that it's not a too overwhelming post as well? Because of course, like you have to put the picture and then the CTA and then the thing. So do you have any tips around that?
You know, when it comes to graphics for social media, less is more. The more stuff you throw at a design, the more confusing it is, because there's no natural progression of the eye to follow what it is you're reading. I mean, we're reading advertisements all the time. We're reading books all the time. We're reading billboards when we're out traveling all the time. So have a look at that and see the natural progression that your eyes are taking to actually follow the flow of the text and everything itself. So when you're advertising your own work or your own niche, for want of a better term, less is more. I'm a Canva coach, so I will always use what the hook on my post as my hook on the visual itself, and sometimes I will include a selfie. I'm the queen of selfies. I love selfies. But I remove the
Oh my god,
background.
I feel I feel like I'm so old because I am really not the queen of selfies.
It has nothing to do with age. It may be the age that we are comfortable in portraying. But if you've got branded photographs, if you've had a brand shoot, use those. Your brand photographer would have created sufficient space for you to use your brand photograph for specifically for text, where you're going to be advertising, where you can place your call to action, where you can place a quotation, for want of a better example.
This is a very good reminder because we had a great photographer on the podcast coming as well, and she said exactly the same thing, that this is something you have to communicate to your photographer, because not all photographers know that you need to have that space. So thank you for reminding that, Stephanie, that this is something you have to communicate to your photographer. And if you're interested in this podcast episode, I will put it in the description as well. You just said something very interesting in the sense of I make sure that the hook of my post is also the visual hook. Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I'm thinking the hook, for example, I'm the selfie queen. I guess you're not going to take that I am the selfie queen and put it on your Canva. So how do you translate that hook from the
If,
post to being the hook for the visual?
very, very good question. So if my hook is I am the selfie queen, I am going to, on my visual, have myself there with a big smiley face and a crown on my head that I get from Canva.
Oh,
And
that is great. Yeah, that is a good one, actually.
so, and if I want to talk about what else can I talk about? I want to weigh up the balance, the pros and cons, the balance between a template and a professional and a self-designed visual. I will use a scale and superimpose a Canva template with my own design. So, and my own design is going to be heavier than the Canva template. So it's it really it doesn't have to be incredibly clever. You can actually just have a word or a sentence or something that alludes to the hook. And that's why I always say that your post and your visual need to shake hands. Because if you're going to be talking about the benefits of proper lighting in an office, and you have a very dark and somber photograph, there's a disconnect. The one is light and the other one is dark. Yes, it could work well,
Mm.
But for our intents and purposes, we want to grab attention with our hook as well as with our visual, encouraging people to click on the see more so that they can read what else is on our post.
I find that an interesting idea because yeah, it is something. I see many people, they will work on their post, they will work on that image, but they will not think. I mean, include myself. I'm giving examples of, but doesn't me too. Um, but we don't work enough on that hook. So if we come back to that example of the selfie queen, so you really just replace the word queen by the crown, and that makes people stop on the post or like click on it.
Um, if they are, if they, this comes back to knowing who your ideal client is.
I love that word, ideal client, niche.
Or your dream client or your 5-star client. It doesn't matter what you call it. It is still the person, it's the one person that you want to work with. If your hook and your visual speaks to that one person, you've achieved what you set out to do.
Yes, and
So
I love that you're talking about that, Stephanie, because um, it is not just of going on Canva and putting out your things. It's going on Canva, knowing exactly who is your ideal client, who are you targeting, what do you want to talk about.
absolutely. It, if we go and we market to everybody, we market to nobody. We all know that because it's drilled into our heads from the moment we actually start in business. If you sell to everybody, you sell to nobody. It's the same as when you talk to everybody, you actually really not talking to anybody. Because if
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
speak to that one person, if your message lands with one person, objective achieved.
Yeah, I was going to say that that's all what you want. You want to have that one person clicking on it, going onto it. So I really love that example. And by the way, if you want to see that example, it's on Stephanie's LinkedIn profile. So I will put the link so that you can go and watch that post and see, again, have the hook of the post, but also have the hook with the visual. That makes me think about something that most of my book coaches use a lot as well, is testimonials. Like, it's very difficult to know, okay, what do I put here on? Sharing testimonials is so important. It reassures the writer. So it has to be out there. But what most will do is like they have the Canva post, they put the entire testimonial on there. And then there is not really a connection because it's just too much text. And I myself, I know I'll just scroll, like I'm just like, oh, okay, too much text on the image. I'm not even going to go into the post. So if we use that same formula you just gave us of like translate the hook from the visual, from the text into a hook for the visual, how would we go around this one?
You know what, Anne? That's a good question. And because there are so many different ways that you can share testimonials on social media, we can share it as a screenshot, which actually gives us the whole testimonial itself. We can share it as an excerpt where we take a specific line and we place that on our branded background, and we embellish a little bit so that it makes it aesthetically pleasing. Or we can just simply go and create a video where we talk, and I know not everybody likes video, but where we talk about the person that has given us the testimonial. And then you can have little speech bubbles with whatever it is that they specifically were talking about. So there's so many ways that you can share a testimonial. And it all comes back down to actually just humanizing who you are as a person to that one person that you're speaking to. So testimonials put a human face to the words. Whether you are going to be sharing your own photograph on the testimonial or that of your client. Now, I understand client confidentiality, and I understand that maybe the client wouldn't feel comfortable with it. it doesn't matter. Then you leave out the photograph. And you can put there, my initials are SW. Then you can put my my little testimonial with SW, and maybe just a very broad title, editor or coach or whatever, underneath that. So you don't compromise your client's confidentiality, but you're still sharing what someone else has said about you, because it's not about you. Remember, your Canva graphic, your marketing, your social media presence is not about you. It's about the person that you're talking to, and about the person who is doing the shouting on your behalf.
I love that reminder, Stephanie, because yes, indeed, it is all about the person you're talking to, not about yourself. I would love to continue talking with you, Stephanie, because I feel like you have so much knowledge that you could share with us. One last question. What should we not do with our Canva posts?
That's such a broad question, and
maybe this is like the worst question to end the interview.
No, that, you know what? It's actually a good question to answer, because there are two things that I absolutely will say to you, go all out on. Do not share a template as is. Do not share a template as is. I'll repeat it. Because you will be scrolled over, because the person's brain is telling them, I've seen this content. Change it around. Make it your own. And the other thing is throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at your design. Because number one, you're overwhelming your people. And number two, they're going to have to work, and they're just going to scroll by. So don't only use templates, and don't throw everything at the design. Those are the two things that I want to leave you with.
No worries. Thank you so much, Tiffany. This has been a really amazing interview. So I want to just repeat the 3 takeaways I got out of this interview. Is 1, spend time on setting up your template folder with your brand colors, with your brand assets, because that will make it so easier for you to put up your Canva post in the future, and keep it under those 10 minutes. Secondly, your branded background, make it clear who you are and make people always remember who you are. And then the third one is translate the hook from your text into a visual hook. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. If we want to go further and learn even more about Canva, where can we find you?
I am very active over on LinkedIn. I share a lot of hints and tips and do's and don'ts, and use it as my soapbox on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I will do absolutely anything and everything on LinkedIn. So my profile is very accessible. Everything is there. It will tell you that I have a YouTube channel. It will tell you that anything you want to know about me. And it will also tell you that I'm actually the Canva queen. My clients tell me that.
I love that. I really will put a link specifically to that link, to that Canva queen post, because the visual is quite stunning, by the way. I love the visual. Talking about learning more, you also have an SEO mini training that is freely accessible to any book coach who wants to learn more about using SEO in their Canva images.
Absolutely. So the free download I have available is how to maximize visibility, specifically aimed at social media using image SEO, because search engine optimization is incredibly important for us as marketers, small business owners, as well as individuals, because how else are we going to advertise ourselves if we forget that the visual that we're sharing on social media needs to make mention of that what you're wanting to be known for. what you're wanting to be searched for.
Yes,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
the image SEO for social media is as important as SEO for your website.
Yeah, I was going to say actually, we don't think enough about it, but if whenever you put out something, SEO should always be on your back mind, whether it's text or, like you say, images. If you want to do this mini training, I will put the link again in the. There's going to be lots of links in that podcast description. But hey, the purpose of this podcast is really to get you to the next stage, and I really hope that this episode has helped you as well to no longer just be a Canva princess, but also reaching the Canva queen status. So if you like this episode and you want the next one right in your email box, don't forget to subscribe to the weekly newsletter for book coaches. You will find the link below in the comments. And you can also subscribe to have the next episode by subscribing to your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much for tuning in. It was lovely to have you here, Stephanie. And I will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.